Oh, god damn it. Welcome back, everybody, to Creative Corner and Opus Magnum. This is an addendum slash follow-up video to my last video where I made basically a solution to this problem here, and a couple of people have been asking me what the fuck was going on. And this is a response. This is what the fuck was going on. I'm just going to go through it, basically just explain what was happening and sort of show you how it all works and how it all fits together quite nicely. So, we have... just go right to left here, left to right, one of those. Can you tell this is my third attempt at recording this video? It's just not working for me so far, but third time's the charm. There's a basic thing here is this. These are the backbone of this game. They are arms that move things around your world. And in this case, because this puzzle was it's a fixed area, you know, there's a lot less room for maneuver, which is one of the problems with this. But yeah, the fixed arms here, you can fix them to any length up to 3. And most of them can't be altered. You've got these 4 here. We've got a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 6. And we've got my personal favourites here, which are the piston arms, which can actually be adjusted to move up and down, as we will see. And then the basic premise of the game is to make this thing here. This is your product, what you have to make in the end. And this case is silver paint, so it's a water, 3 silvers, and salt reagent or atom all bonded together like that in that particular pattern. And to do that, we have the reagents. So we have iron. Notice that's not silver. We'll get onto that. And we also have water bonded to a salt, which is, you know, fun. Anyway, so let's tackle that bond first. That little bit there in the middle is a bond, and this thing here, the glyph of unbonding, undoes that bond. Isn't that just convenient and makes sense? There's also different kinds of bonding. There's a bonding called a triplex bonding, which is a bit more complicated and annoying. You only use that in 1 or 2 puzzles that the game designers actually made, but I'm sure there's a lot of workshop levels that have it on. Anyway, yes, this one here is just a glyph of bonding. It does a standard bond like that kind there between 2 atoms. Obviously, it's the 2 that are placed in that position. So, that's all of those. Those are the sort of simple mechanics. We also have things like this. These are tracks, and they can be used to move the piston arm or any of the arms around the table. Obviously, it's a lot easier on larger boards, but you can use the T key there, moves it towards the minus, and the G key moves it towards the positive end. So that's what those do. And let's get on to this then. So that's not silver, that's iron. These, iron, and all these other things that are associated with it work a little bit differently to the rest. So let's bring up this thing here. Bit of a thing. So you've got your basic elements and all this stuff here. These are all basically fixed things. You can't really change them except for one particular kind of thing, which is in another puzzle. But then we have these here. This is a big sort of line chain of things, like of elements. So we've got lead, tin, iron, copper, silver, gold. And there are 2 ways to upgrade, for instance, lead to tin or copper to silver. And those ways are using a particular glyph that you add quicksilver to upgrade it, which we don't have in this particular puzzle, so we can't use that method. Or we use this glyph here, which is the glyph of purification, and you put 2 of one element in this case iron, and you get the next one of the next copy up the chain, which in this instance is copper. So you can imagine where I'm going with that. So let's quickly then go through these things here. All of this stuff at the bottom. This is the crux of this game, is like basic programming and the positioning of all these things here just to make an end product. And it's a very well done game. So the first thing we have, the thing you use most often probably, is the grab function bound to F there. That basically, where this section of the arm is, will make it grab whatever's there. If there's nothing there, it'll just try and grab and not get anything, but in this instance, it would grab the salt. Then we have the rotations. We have the clockwise and anti-clockwise rotations. You'll use them fairly frequently. If you have piston arms like those, you can extend them and retract them like that. And you know, those are the sort of basic functions. That's what you're first taught to do. You also have tilting, which doesn't move the arm, but moves whatever the arm is holding in a particular direction, clockwise or anti-clockwise. You also have the R key there, allows you to just let go of whatever you're holding. The T key and the G key are for the tracks, the plus and the minus, which I just need to get rid of that track because I don't actually need it there. And finally, the ones at the bottom, we have Z, which is just deletes whatever's selected there. Let's go like that. Don't need to do that. We also have X, which is a wait function, and it just basically tells the thing when to stop doing what it needs to. There. Because sometimes if you don't tell it all to stop at the same time, then it'll just sort of keep going. So obviously, because I placed it, can't put any others. But yeah, things will start looping in the wrong fashion. So this would start looping at the front of the thing, at the point where its last instruction is in the sequence, which is here. Obviously, there's a lot more to go between there, so that would be less useful. Back to here. Right, so we've got the wait function. We also have C. This function here resets wherever this, like say, this arm is, say it's over here, it would reset it to where it needs to be, where its original starting position is, in this instance, here. And also, the final function is V. And that basically is just to sort of repeat what you have done. That is literally what that is. That's the last. It's repeat everything you did up until the last. I think it's until the last reset. It's either the last reset. Oh no, it's not. It's the just the last. Just repeat everything. Repeat everything that preceded that until the last repeat. So basically, if I do that, it means I don't have to type all that out, do it again, and it won't do it twice. So yeah, bit useful. Let's just sort of go through this puzzle then. So, start out with the two things grabbing there, moving over, and then rotating to unbond here, getting that set up in there. Grabbing hold of that one there and moving it over to here, which are teleporters. They are just sort of more exclusive to the area-based puzzles like these ones here. The standard main game puzzles aren't really a part of, you know, because they don't have this kind of thing in them. They don't need the teleporters. So yes, anyway, so we're using this section over here is just being used to make the silver, as you can see, and then the water has come through into this section here, which once I've made some silver there, brought through and round, will be bonded, and then I will have those there. They don't need to be there. That's just for safekeeping and sort of so they're out of the way a little bit, which, you know, can be a little bit easy to get things in the way because things aren't allowed to touch very much. So, for instance, these two atoms here can't touch. These two atoms here aren't allowed to touch. The atoms aren't allowed to touch these bits here either. Any of the arms. So yeah, you need to be very careful about positioning in this game. So bring the silver over there, and we're going to bond that silver with this bit of salt that we detached earlier, like that. And then at a rather convenient time, if I do say so myself, we've got this second bit of silver here, which will be used to bond to that like that. And at this point in the video, in the original video, I got a little bit stuck. I couldn't quite work out what I needed to do next, and it took me a good while to work it out. But in the end, I worked it out. I used number 3 to bring it over like that, and rotate get to the correct position, and then like that, and I have my end product. And there you go. That is basically how this game works. It's a very simple to learn, hard to master game, and a lot of the puzzles in it are very, very cleverly put together. I especially like these area ones because they're just so tricky because of the extra restriction they've put on there. And so we've got those, and these are judged a little bit differently. So if I go to one of the standard puzzles, so this is sort of just one of the more normal puzzles, and this is what you get judged on, the criteria in which tells you how good you are at the game. So you have the cost, because everything has a certain cost. So like the piston arms cost more than just a standard twisty arm, but in the long run they can be more useful and cut down costs. Depends how you work them. So we've got the piston arms that cost more, so the cost is important. The lower that is, the better it is. The cycles is basically the time it took to do. And in this case, cycles is almost intrinsically tied a little bit to instructions. The more instructions you have, the more cycles it will take. And in the standard puzzles, you're judged by area. So basically the area is the amount of hexes that anything touches. So even if it just hovers over it, it doesn't have to rest on it, it just has to literally go over it at some point, and then it's like, oh well, that's an extra area. So yeah, in the other puzzles though, in the advanced puzzles where the area is fixed, cycles and instructions are split, so the number of instructions is counted there instead. Anyway, there's also a little weird sort of Mahjong type game that's a thing. It is literally just Mahjong, but slightly different, so there's that, but I'm not going to play that. There's actually an achievement for playing 100 games of that, which I'm not going to do. Anyway, let's show you just another one of the puzzles that I did. So this is getting late game now, so these are a little bit more complicated. So you can see the amount of bonding bits you have to do there, and I think this one was, yeah, pretty long in terms of instructions. I'll just run through it very quickly and you can see how I managed it. I mean, in this instance, it's all a little bit sort of, oh, so much area being used. But yeah, you know, I think overall I did quite well in this puzzle, even though I used a bit more area than I needed to. And yeah, it's all like that basically. You have to sort of work out what you need to do to make the product. So this is the final puzzle in the actual plot of the game. These bits here are, if I show you, got basically that and that. They're basically positive and minus, and they're made from two salt icons. And there's some where you just need one, and you have to use a particular kind of thing in, I think it's in that section there, to get rid of one of them, which is, you know, it's just, it costs more and it's a pain. Anyway, and then we've got this bit here, which is, they are fixed atoms in a binder thing, and you basically rotate that around, and it's useful only for this kind of thing here, where the thing that's on here is basically the base, and whatever you put into here can, well, salt can become it. So I've got fire there, so if we put a salt atom there, like that one just there, funnily enough, it'll become a fire thing. And I think, to be honest, there's not much more to say about the game. That's basically, you know, the crux of it in the end. That's the basic mechanics, that's how it all works, and it comes together just perfectly to make this insane looking, really weird fucking thing that unless you know or you've been told what's going on, is just incredibly difficult to understand. And now hopefully you understand what's going on with it, and I very much recommend this game to anyone who's a fan of puzzle games. I'm just going to let this puzzle run through while I do the outro. Thank you very, very much for watching this episode of Creative Corner, and we'll be back to the sort of time-lapsey, normal episode type thing hopefully next week. I've got quite a few ideas in the tank, And yes, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time for more.